Tonight, the Jays dominate on a renovated turf in what felt like a home run derby.
And there he goes. And it's hit hard to left. And that ball is gone.
The Jays setting a home run record and wowing fans with spectacular catches in the outfield. We'll break down the action on the field and the reaction from fans to the newly renovated digs.
Somebody said I chose the wrong slave today. Literally sent me that message. I had to read it. I couldn't believe it.
And the Toronto pro athletes facing racist attacks online as sports betting continues to explode in popularity. What can be done to clean up those betting apps?
If you have phone service, you can maybe message your family. You can maybe call 911.
Plus, the latest from Rogers on how long it'll take to get wireless network across the subway system and what we've learned from the other telecom companies, whether they'll hop on board. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. Nice to have you along with us on such an upbeat night. I mean, it is not summer yet, but it sure feels like it out there tonight with the Jays home opener at Rogers Center. Our boys of summer pulling off a big win over the Detroit Tigers in front of a sold-out hometown crowd. Add to that 20-degree weather through much of the evening and a newly renovated stadium complete with a rooftop patio and so much more for fans to enjoy. We've got team coverage for you tonight of the Jays home opener. Dale Manukduk has been finding out if the changes to the stadium were a win with fans. But first, let's get to Greg Ross to break down the game. And Greg, the Jays had a bit of a rocky start, but clearly turned it around. Walk us through the moments that stood out.
Well, Chris, I think, first of all, I don't think many people are going to forget this night, people that were here particularly. A special one. Obviously, fans so excited to get into this ballpark and see these renovations, experience them firsthand. We saw the same excitement on the faces of the players as they walked onto the field for the first time today, and they got to experience what these renovations were like in the game and how they might affect the game itself because of the new dimensions here at the Rogers Center. That home run fence is very different from the one that they had here for decades before. And a lot of people have been talking about how this is going to be a hitter's ballpark because the fence is closer in some areas. It's shorter in some areas. Well, we got to see that firsthand. You talked about this being like a home run derby tonight. Look at the Jays offense in this game. The Jays getting just a boatload of home runs in this one, starting with Matt Chapman in the fourth inning, knocking out one here, the first for a Blue Jay at the Rogers Center. Kevin Kiermaier and George Springer went back-to-back with dingers in the fifth. Bo Bichette, a solo shot in the eighth, and then Alejandro Kirk capped it off with a home run a three-run shot in the eighth inning as the Jays go on to hammer the Tigers in their home opener. 9-3 was the final in this game. We heard from Blue Jays manager John Gibbons, that's going back, John Schneider after this game.
And crowd was awesome tonight from 7 o'clock when we were in the dugout. Couldn't have asked for a better opening night here at home. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Hopefully this energy can kind of be contagious a little bit, but it's fun out there.
Obviously, wish I could have done a little bit better and been in there a little bit longer and kind of help our bullpen out a little bit, but it's a great team win, and that gives us great momentum and kind of gives the crowd something to be excited for tomorrow.
So good start for the Blue Jays here on this homestand. They improved to 7-4 on the season. Not a bad record. This is a team that has a lot of high expectations, and I think right now fans are pretty happy with the way things started, at least here at the Rogers Center, Chris.
Yeah, no kidding. So many dynamite moments. And Greg, I want you to zero in on a spectacular catch in the second inning. Tell us all about that one.
You know what? It's interesting because Kevin Kiermaier, the guy who came in to play center field for the Blue Jays this year, maybe the best defensive center fielder in baseball. I think you can make that argument. Well, before the game, I was actually talking to him right here on the field. I kind of pointed out the shorter home run fence in center field. Listen to what he had to say about that. Let's take a look. Look at that short wall there in center field. I mean, you've played out there before, but not with the wall looking like that. You think you can get up there and snag some home runs?
Yeah, I think I can get up there, and I think I can make it look a lot more dramatic than what it actually might be with the lowered wall. But I like making plays. I like the exciting plays. I like getting a reaction out of the crowd, and hopefully I can give the people here at the Rogers Center many of cheers throughout the whole year.
He didn't waste any time. Second inning of this game, Chris, and yes, he has a chance to do just that. Kerry Carpenter, the towering shot to center field. It has the distance, but Kiermaier gets the glove over the fence to haul it back in, and he was pretty excited, pretty pumped about that. Those are the kind of moments that we were talking about. We get one early in this ball game, and you couldn't wipe the smile off of Kiermaier's face. Listen to what he had to say after the game about that catch.
So many times the wall is brought up. Okay, they lower it to 8 feet for you. What are you going to do? And I sit here and keep saying, you know, all I want is opportunities. I want to make those plays, and baseball works in mysterious ways sometimes. And tonight, you know, my second inning out there and make that catch, it was such a rush, such a thrill. It's one I'll go back and watch probably 10 times a night. And the Rogers Center reaction to it was amazing. I was on cloud nine the whole night. It was so fun.
And it was such a great reaction from the fans inside the Rogers Center. I have a feeling, Chris, that Kevin Kiermaier is going to be a fan favorite very soon, if he's not already. And remember, this is a guy who came to Toronto. He wasn't liked very well by Toronto Blue Jay fans for some of the antics that he pulled when he was with the Tampa Bay Rays, but I think they're going to like him a lot now that he's wearing a Blue Jays uniform.
Yeah, no kidding. Just an incredible performance. Greg with the lucky assignment there on the turf. Thanks so much, Greg. Now let's get right to Dale Manukduk, also having a great assignment tonight. He's on the fan experience. And Dale, it really looked like quite the party watching along on TV. What was it like for people actually there in person?
Well, Chris, it's pretty much clear now as the last few fans trickle out of the Rogers Center, but it was absolutely electric. Even hours before the game, fans really taking the opportunity to experience all of the new spaces at the ballpark. There was awe and wonder and excitement written all over the faces of the fans. And most of the action, Chris, happened on the 500 level. That's where the Corona rooftop patio is. It has a real cottage vibe to it with Edison bulbs strung up, couches to sit on. What I really liked was the art that was inspired and dedicated to all of Toronto's various neighborhoods. Some really neat landmarks pictured there that I think Torontonians will really appreciate. Now, down the hallway from the rooftop patio is what's called Park Social, and it has this real country fair scene to it with fake grass laid out everywhere, cornhole, picnic table, some 4-foot high Connect 4. Now, all of these experiences, Chris, they were created in order to give all of the fans a different type of experience, and I think from the ones that we spoke to after the game, I think the ball club really nailed it.
Oh, it was great. It was awesome. Yeah, and it also is nice that they're winning.
Oh man, let me tell you, when I first walked up in there, last year it used to just look like a hallway in school. Now it feels like I'm going inside the club. That stuff looks so neat. I felt like I had to pay like coverage charge on top of my ticket.
Like there was great DJs, music, people dancing around, and yeah, it was a good vibe. Like the Blue Jays are doing unbelievable. They're going to have a great season, and yeah, we're excited.
Some other notable changes, Chris, on the 200 level is the flight deck. They have a vintage arcade there, some shuffleboard, and some space for private events. And then down on the 100 level, the food. Oh my, the food, Chris. There was a showcase of all of Toronto's different diversities, Jamaican cuisine, Japanese, Mexican. It really did represent our city. Now, this is a two-phase project, a $300 million renovation. The phase one started last offseason in October. It was really about the spectators, the fans. Phase two will start this offseason and will focus on behind the scenes and players-only areas. Chris?
Dale, you are making me hungry tonight. I can't wait to catch a game myself. Thanks for this tonight. And the CN Tower joining the fun, lit in blue tonight to celebrate the home opener. And boy, did the weather cooperate. Currently a balmy 19 degrees out there. And Colette Kennedy tracking the unseasonably warm temperatures. And Colette, some really strong winds blowing all that warm air around today.
Yeah, Chris, you're not kidding, right? You really had to hold on to things so they didn't blow away on you. But boy, oh boy, those temperatures, 24 degrees for Toronto, for Pearson. Okay, not a record, but over the next couple of days, we may well be flirting with those. But those winds, because of the direction at times, keeping things a little bit cooler and certainly blustery. Near the lakeshore, some cooler readings, certainly this morning at 8 a.m. when it was only 4 degrees at Oshawa, but already double digits. Toronto at 10, some other single digits into southwestern Ontario. Now let's roll this forward into mid-afternoon, and by 2 o'clock, Windsor at 24, but not only there, Toronto as well, and in towards Oshawa as well, looking at those really nice conditions. Where's it a little cooler? Okay, keeping in mind in Kingston, the airport, that reporting station, very close to the lake, so get away from that, and it wasn't quite that cool there. Overnight tonight, a little bit of cloud cover. We'll call it partly cloudy conditions, much clearer or clearing into southwestern Ontario. A little cloud in the morning and then sunshine straight on through for us into those afternoon hours. And check this out. After a low of 9, we're looking at mid-20s for our highs tomorrow. Breezy again, though, Chris.
All right, I will be ready. Thank you, Colette. Now to that major news we led with last night on the show, Rogers' deal to get the subway system hooked up to its wireless network. Lots of questions swirling today about how it'll work, when it'll happen, and what other providers will do. Talia Ricci wraps it all together.
This is how many Torontonians feel about getting cell service expanded on the subway.
Finally.
Rogers said it has entered into an agreement to acquire the Canadian operations of BAI Communications, which has had exclusive rights to build a wireless network for the TTC since 2012. Rogers said getting full 5G service will take about 2 years.
The subway can otherwise be dead time, and so if you can be on the internet, you can read or catch up on work, and that's really useful.
But right now you cannot do anything other than press the yellow line, the emergency line. So if you have phone service, you can maybe message your family, you can maybe call 911.
The announcement comes after a string of violent incidents on the TTC in recent months. Rogers says it wants to ensure access to 911 across the subway system, regardless of a rider's service provider.
The ability to call 911 is something that we've heard a lot from our customers. They feel that's an extra level of comfort. What I'm saying is that 911 is one way to report an emergency on the TTC. The yellow strip is another way. So eventually we'll just have more tools at our disposal for people to report emergencies. That will give people not only a sense of comfort, but also make them safer.
It's something that Council a couple of weeks ago asked for very strongly. We asked the cellular providers to step up, and I'm glad to see that Rogers has.
Rogers says as the network is built, it will work with other providers to bring them on board. But some people aren't convinced that this move will do much for safety.
This is not an instant solution to resolving the high incidences of violence, the homelessness issue, and the mental health crisis that's occurring. So this is only just a piece of the puzzle.
Help the people that have mental illness, that are sleeping on the streets, that are now moving into the subway. That's their home now. So the subway's problems aren't 5G.
In a statement, TELUS said the telecom company is committed to working with the TTC and other carriers to deliver a solution that ensures full access for all riders. Meanwhile, Bell said it was surprised there wasn't an open bidding process. It now appears that the subway project has once again been given to one party with no assurances that all wireless service providers will have access, adding, the city needs to show some leadership and mandate immediate access for all carriers.
Let's put this in perspective. The big three combined together have literally tens of billions of dollars in profits. Well, given the high amount of money that you and I are paying, I think there is a moral obligation that they, do this for the good of the society and for Toronto.
And with full cell service in Vancouver and Montreal's transit system, Chai says it's also about time that Toronto catches up. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
This was the scene at Bremner and Spadina just after the lunch hour. The intersection was littered with wood and metal debris after scaffolding fell from a construction site. The collapse also taking out a traffic light. Now, 2 people suffered minor injuries, and the incident is now under investigation by the Ministry of Labour. Toronto police revealing what the service is calling a successful end to a year-long investigation into cross-border gun trafficking. Dozens of people have been arrested and hundreds of criminal charges have been laid in Project Moneypenny. But as Ali Chiasson reports, critics say the bust isn't enough to deter future gun trafficking crimes.
There's a large amount of Glock handguns, primarily all semi-automatic. They're all absolutely lethal.
This is the result of Project Moneypenny. And yes, the 007 reference is intentional, inspired by the first of 42 alleged gun smugglers who've been arrested.
And James Bond analogy to the initial of that first name, and we'll leave it at that.
In total, 442 criminal charges have been laid, along with the seizure of 173 guns in Canada and the United States. It's a joint investigation by several local police services, including Toronto and York Region, as well as the Canada Border Service Agency.
We are all battling the same challenges: illegal guns coming from the United States. The only way to combat this problem is by working together.
The guns are legally purchased in the United States, mostly from Arizona and Florida, then smuggled into Canada for a pretty penny.
It's supply and demand. You know, these firearms are sold for 300%, 400%, 500% markup, so there's a demand for them, and they're sold to different individuals, different organized crime groups.
It is really a drop in the bucket.
The former chief of London Police says legislation isn't enough to stop the flow of guns across the world's largest undefended land border.
Doing nothing is not an option. And so the police have to keep doing these projects, have to keep working with our partners to the south.
It can seem like an endless game of whack-a-mole.
Do you want to chop off the toes of a criminal organization, or do you want to chop off the head?
Former Baltimore police commander and ATF member Robert Sneed says both countries share a common goal.
You have a criminal organization who's operating in between Canada, the Ontario area, and the United States. Both sides of the border have law enforcement professionals. And what's good in your country as far as, you know, from a crime prevention standpoint, is pretty much good. We have the same common interests, morals, and goals. We want to prevent crime before it happens.
In the meantime, here at home, investigators say just having 173 guns off the street is enough to call Project Moneypenny a success. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
On the show here, we've covered the harm of sports betting on problem gamblers, but how about the players themselves? Tonight, 2 Toronto Raptors are speaking out about the harassment and racist insults they've faced from online betting platforms. Meg Roberts has their story.
April, a win for Toronto sports fans with the Leafs, Raptors, and Blue Jays all playing at the same time. But with more sports comes more sports betting, which some athletes say they could do without. Toronto Raptor Chris Boucher making this comment on Yahoo Sports Canada.
Man, I'm so over this, man. People are literally, I got called. Somebody said I chose the wrong slave today. Literally, send me that message. I had to read it. I couldn't believe it.
What?
Yeah, he said I chose the wrong slave because I had only 5 points and he needed me to score 10.
Bruce Kidd is a former Olympian and professor of sport and public policy. What do you make of a story like that?
Well, it's very upsetting that athletes are under this pressure and they're getting these attacks for not meeting the point spread or the parlay that a bettor has placed. I'm at a loss for words about how upsetting that is.
Kidd says sports betting is becoming dangerous for the authenticity found in sport.
It poisons sport, it distorts sport.
Kidd says gambling is amplified by accessibility. A quick Google search and dozens of betting apps come up. The harassment of players, he says, heightened by social media. Both those things you can now do from the comfort of your couch. Toronto Raptor Fred Van Fleet says his own experiences have driven him away from online engagement.
The same people that is talking about us, like, you can't fathom dealing with this on a daily basis. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't fathom I hope your mom dies DM every day.
Every day.
The Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario says it's appalled by such acts. It said incidents of this nature fall outside the AGCO's realm of regulatory authority and that it enforces strict standards when it comes to advertising and imposes outright prohibitions to advertising to children. Kidd says the Canadian government needs to come up with tougher laws.
Surely we can eliminate the messages upon children and youth that sport is mostly about betting. That's crazy.
Kidd says he's planning on putting together a campaign to ban advertising of all forms of gambling. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. And Colette, today was wonderful weather-wise, and tomorrow we get even better, the warmth and the sun.
I know, right? As if we weren't spoiled enough today. Boy, that UV index tomorrow, it is going to be on the high side. So keeping that in mind, you know, we have to start thinking about these things once again. Do know that we're looking at high pressure, and that's really why we're benefiting from this fair weather, that it's really going to be taking its time, kind of pushing through as though we're in more of a summer holiday kind of pattern, because it's around for several days, and that's sort of what's unusual. Yeah, it's not out of the question for us to see temperatures like this, but really day after day, yeah, that's looking pretty good. Now, with that warm air tomorrow, with that sunshine, yeah, the winds from the southwest as a warm front's kind of coming in here, and so those winds will be blustery at times. The next chance of showers, well, when does that ridge of high pressure leave us? You'll see in the 5-day forecast. A few little isolated showers into eastern Ontario. That's along that warm front, that boundary. A little bit of cloud cover in the morning, although you'll get the clearing tonight through towards the Windsor area and Sarnia as well. And then we get full sun that we're talking about as we head towards those afternoon hours for tomorrow. So that's what we're looking at. Close to the lake, it's going to feel cooler, but you get away from that breeze or get into a protected area, you're going to be feeling this heat. At least for now, the humidity, that's not too much to be worried about. Let's check out those winds and that flow. Today we had that more west to northwesterly, and then tomorrow we're getting a more to a south to southwesterly flow back towards southwestern Ontario. South to southeasterly at times. Now that can keep things a bit cooler, again, coming off the cooler lakes for tomorrow. But as those winds continue to change direction, we're going to see that heat building in. And that's why it carries on into Thursday as well. Looking at those readings overnight tonight in terms of what we have for southwestern Ontario, and I'll tell you very similar temperatures that we have, a low of 9 for Toronto too, and then tomorrow up to 27 into Thursday. That would be very close to a record, and certainly if we get there tomorrow, it would be as well. We cool down a little bit, and there it is, Chris. That next chance of showers at this time anyway, looks like it's not till the end of the weekend, second half of the weekend anyway.
No complaints from me. Thanks, Colette. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Marivelle Tarouk has you covered tomorrow at 6, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.